Good evening from Washington. I'm Larry O'Connor, and yes, this town is still buzzing over the 4 federal counts from Special Counsel Jack Smith against former President Donald Trump. And there's a lot of scrutiny now for Jack Smith, how he conducts himself, what he's done in the past, and what we might expect from him as he pursues, like Inspector Javert, Donald Trump to the ends of the earth. Well, joining us now, a man who might give us some very unique insight into how Jack Smith operates and how he views the law, because he was the target of Mr. Smith when he was at the Justice Department. Joining us is the former governor of Virginia, Bob McDonnell. Governor McDonnell, thank you for joining us, sir.
Yeah, my pleasure, Larry. Thank you.
You know, you were a good governor. I was here during the time you were here. Your stunning defeat of Barack Obama in 2009 was a political earthquake. People forget you won by 17 points that year in Virginia, which is now seen as a blue state, if not a toss-up state, thanks to Governor Youngkin's victory. So I think it's fair to say that you were a very successful rising star within the Republican ranks when you were governor.
Well, gosh, that's such a humbling leading question. I don't think I should agree with you, but we had a great team, Larry. I was blessed to have Democrats and Republicans working together. That was 15 years ago when I started. It was a different political climate. But obviously, it was just crushing when Jack Smith and the Justice Department went after me and my wife, essentially for helping a CEO of a publicly traded company in Virginia to advance some of their goals, setting up meetings that I didn't even go to just to give them access to government. And after $28 million and 3.5 years of very difficult time, obviously, we were able to prevail unanimously in the United States Supreme Court, and I'm very fortunate.
Right. These charges against you, there was a conviction, but then they were overturned unanimously. Say that again, unanimously by the Supreme Court. That means Sotomayor. It means Ruth Bader Ginsburg all agreed that it should be overturned. What was Mr. Smith's role in the Justice Department when you faced these charges?
Mr. Smith was head of the Public Integrity Section from 2010 to 2015, so it was all during the time of the prosecution. So it would not have advanced without his consent and blessing. We actually asked for a meeting with the Attorney General of the United States, that is my law firms, to make their case about why there was no crime here. And we met with the Deputy Attorney General, gave him a 40-page brief, told him why their theories of the law were absolutely incorrect. And yet they persisted and indicted me. But that would not have happened without Jack Smith approval. And I guess that's why when you look at the stunning rebuke of the unanimous Supreme Court with Justice Roberts writing the opinion and saying essentially that they were criminalizing the ordinary things that people in government do every day for constituents. And looking at the fact that the five White House counsel from Obama to Reagan and 84 former state attorneys general all said this was wrong. I think it was stunning to me that Jack Smith and the group pulled the trigger. So I think I'd say he was overzealous. I think that he used bad judgment in my case, but he did it with Senator Bob Menendez, with the former vice presidential candidate John Edwards, and other cases. So I'd say it was not partisan, but it was just a lack of good judgment in cases where he shouldn't have brought the case.
In fact, I heard you say on my radio program yesterday on WMAL in Washington, Governor, you said of Mr. Smith, he'd rather win than get it right. Now, some people would just shrug and say, well, that's a lawyer for you, right? But when you're working for the Justice Department, you're a former Attorney General, there's a different standard, isn't there?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I don't say that with any malice. You know, I've been very blessed and recovered and got grandchildren and good jobs and helping other people in the body politic. But I say that because the ethical duty of a government attorney, as every lawyer knows, is that you're supposed to seek truth and justice in the criminal justice process, not just to convict. That's very different. Every other lawyer is a zealous advocate for his client, but we don't do that in the criminal justice system because government prosecutors have a duty not only to win for the Commonwealth or the state, but they also have a duty to the public to make sure that justice is fairly administered. And I think, in my opinion, is where he's fallen down by rather winning than getting it right and pulling the trigger in my case. You know, the brief we gave him was a lot like Justice Roberts' opinion in telling him he was wrong.
Governor, looking back now, I think it's fair to see what happened to you and the way this case was conducted, especially, let's not forget, with the leaks. Boy, the Washington Post had a whole lot of leaks coming out of that case about you. And then you see the way the Justice Department and the way the courts were used against former President Trump, and it continues to go on. It's almost like this is a very obvious pattern of behavior.
Well, I'll say about Mr. Smith, he's a longtime career public servant, Harvard Law guy, handled a lot of high-profile cases around the world well for the government. But in this area where judgment is so important, where balls and strikes, regardless of political party, to make sure you're vindicating the rule of law and not going after political opponents, people have to have confidence. And in my case, it was almost funny, Larry. Every Friday afternoon, it seemed like at 3 o'clock, we get a call from the Washington Post on the latest leak from the government.
Yeah.
And, you can't try these cases in the press. It's not fair to anybody. So I think that's where they use every weapon, including even leaked grand jury investigation in my case and other cases, to win. And that's not it. You need an umpire to call balls and strikes, not be a partisan, and not just want to win.
Well,
you got to get the law right.
If I may, though, Governor McDonnell, the leaks to the Washington Post on a regular basis were not necessarily a strategy to win. It was a strategy to damage you. If anything, it shows that this was a politically motivated action, because even if you prevailed in court, they still would have damaged you and damaged your reputation, because I think that was the goal. Well,
you leak to sort of taint the jury pool and to be able to wear down your opponents so maybe they'll plead guilty. But, we told them early on, both my wife and I in the case, we did not do anything wrong. We did not violate the law. I would never violate my sacred privilege. We are not going to plead guilty to anything. We will see you in court because this is unjust. And thankfully, I had some of the best law firms in the world from D.C. that felt the same way. And so most defendants, Larry, to your point, they don't have the opportunity to have firms like me that are willing to be in the fight, whether they got paid or not, and so they plead guilty, and that's wrong.
In our final minute here, I've got to ask you, sir, because I got to observe you as the Attorney General and the Governor, and I saw this tragic case unfold before my eyes, and you haven't been in the public eye since then, really. Do you miss it at all? Do you miss politics? Do you miss serving as an elected official?
I do. I miss public policy. I miss getting people of different political stripes to find common ground and find solutions, like we did with transportation and higher education, things that have helped Northern Virginia in particular. But I don't miss the fundraising, and I don't miss the vitriol. It was a lot easier to govern, Larry, 13 years ago when I started. I had people of both parties working together. But now, if you compromise, it's a dirty word. You get primaried by your own party. It's a win at all costs. It's I'm right, you're 100% wrong. It's a different type of politics. I think it's bad for the country. I think most people agree with that. And I'm looking for statesmen to stand up and try to govern with honor, get people to work together and share the credit. That's what good leaders do.
Well, former Governor Bob McDonnell, I appreciate you joining us and giving us your very important and unique insight into this. And hopefully we'll be able to draw on your wisdom in the future as well.
Thanks, Larry. Privileged to be on. Appreciate it.
There's more to come on O'Connor tonight. Keep it here. You, my friends, you're watching Salem News Channel.